Hey everyone, so we're back and I'm putting to work the watercolor palettes that I have been showing you guys with color cards and small art pieces on 9x12 in my previous videos. This year I decided that I was going to make my family's holiday card from scratch, and the way that I would do that would be with the implementation of illustration with graphite on watercolor paper, watercolor paint in layers, in which I would then overlay in Photoshop and augment, and then print out to make multiples of a holiday card that relates to my family and to my close friends. So all of these videos are very long, and so I'm going to put them at warp speed. I will take you through the techniques that I'm using here, but I want to give you guys a good, economical, and efficient way of using your watercolors that you can continue to do year to year and work with multiple brands and multiple layers, also while including technology to keep yourself relevant and to make your workload easier for yourself. So first thing I did was I Googled the type of tree that my family usually used to buy when we decorated a tree, which was the Fraser fir. If you Google the photos of the types of conifers and evergreen trees that are used by Christmas tree farms, you will notice very quickly how different the branch patterns are for each tree. So what you're seeing now is me illustrating in graphite first what a semblance of an idea of what the pattern is of the branch form, and then going ahead with a really saturated lime green and letting that dry. So the Fraser fir not only relates to my family, but also it saved me a lot of time in tree architecture because the needles on the Fraser fir are short and the branches on the Fraser fir are stiff. So I'm really dealing with short, green, upward trending lines in the tree architecture, which is easier for me to execute if I'm using a water well synthetic pen, like the one I'm using here. I own this pen in a couple of sizes, and you'll see as I start to layer in the darker colors that bright green will show through, but I start to get more earthy with the darker greens as I move forward, and I also start to use a thinner line. There are these little nibs or type of berry type things at the end of the branches, and so I just executed those by adding a small little dot to every so often on the branches. So as you can see here, as I continue around the darker areas of the tree, I'm taking up less and less real estate with each darker layer. I'm a little trepidatious about overpainting at this point because I've ruined a lot of paper and paintings by overpainting and trying to remove. So at this point I'm trying to be patient, letting my layers dry, walking away from it and doing something else completely different. I think at this point I was baking for the holidays and coming back and then saying, this looks natural, this doesn't, and going right back in with a darker color. Once you get it to where you think it's finished, you can then come back with a really dark green and start to really pull out tiny little features that you like in the tree and that you want to have prominent in the overall piece. It's important to note here that I have chosen to make a card that is 5x7. So my paper piece will be 10 by 7 inches. This art piece that I've taped off here is 5x7 inches. If you are worried about your skill level or your detail or anything concerning confidence as an artist, double or triple the size of your painting and then reduce it in Photoshop. You are going to get so much more bang for your buck if you paint something much larger and then reduce it to make a card. Now I start on the ornaments, and I don't have any rhyme or reason to the color scheme that I'm going to use for the ornaments. What I know is that I want to make round ornament balls. I want them to be chrome reflective, and then I'm going to put the initial of each member of my direct family and their children and my in-laws on the ornament so that everyone has their own on the tree. So it's suggestive, it's a little subliminal, and hopefully everyone who gets it will recognize what it is. I've Googled a image of a gold chrome ornament ball that was for sale, and then just started to implement the same techniques, following the orange and yellow as the light. So I finished the ornaments. I went ahead and scanned the tree and the ornaments into Photoshop, separated the ornaments, and then laid them onto the tree. I did not like the color scheme at all, so I used the hue and saturation tool to alter the ornaments that were on the tree so I could get a more succinct image, such as this. And I had also added the initials again of everyone's name to the balls. And then I painted a little stamp for the back of the card that is an inside joke between the members of my family and the tree topper that my mom uses on our annual Christmas tree. So at this point, it's time for me to paint the image for the inside of the card. And how this inside is going to be is that when you open the holiday card for me, you have the Christmas tree on the front. You open up the card and it's just going to be one art image. And that image is something that I found on the internet. It is a photo of a mountain highway in the Shenandoah Mountains in the snow. And then I also Googled the highway signs from the Shenandoah Mountains because they are typeset specifically for that park, and they have a specific font that they use on the brown highway signs. So I thought I would put my holiday messaging on that highway sign in the font, which I purchased online, and implement that into Photoshop when I printed out the inside of the cards. One thing to note is I'm again layering from light to dark. There's a lot of gray in this because I really want the white to pull out, but you will notice I do wash the paper with a very light gray to make sure it's not paper white. So here's my first dry stage. This actually might be my second dry stage. And so now I'm going to be able to pick out what I want to prioritize with contrast, what I want to saturate with more colors, and the hierarchy that's going to be in this image. My messaging again is going to be on that small little brown sign. And I'm definitely thinking at this point that there needs to be an injection of not only more color with what we have, but maybe some wildlife. The Virginia state bird is a cardinal, so you'll see eventually I add cardinals to the highway sign to just give it a little extra something. So here it is. I've photographed the image because the scanner was coming up in grayscale, and not that it wasn't reading any color, but the only tones I could see in the scan preview and then the high-res scan were green and a cold gray, which with this, it's not gonna work. So I went ahead and took a photo with my iPhone, and then because it wasn't sitting on a perfectly flat surface, you know, it has a tendency to warp and things like that, I went ahead and free transformed the image so that, and I put little ruler guideline drag downs to mark a perfect border, and then distorted my image so that it hit the border perfectly, because I do want a tiny, about 1/4 of an inch white border around the edge of this on the card. Now it's time to send it through the printer and see. But luckily I have about 10 mess ups here where I can look at how the crop is going to work and how the orientation is going to work to get this final bit printed on my cards. So here we go. I tried a couple of papers here, and these are artist watercolor papers. I'm using a Canon printer that I've had for about 10 years that I think works really well and prints in large format. It's specifically made for art printing, and there are newer versions of this printer that are very economical, and you can find a lot of third-party ink cartridges online, and they are very affordable. I'm using a Canson watercolor I'm using a Canson watercolor paper that comes in 18 inches by 24 inches. It's left over from a video I did earlier about paper marbling. It has a great weight. I think it'll give the card a good authenticity, and it'll be easy to score and fold. Here I'm using the back of a floral knife, and I am pressing an indentation down where the fold will be on the outside of the card. I'm pretty sure this is actually the opposite of what I needed to do. I needed to score the inside of the card. But either way, I just wanted to give my folds a bit of an easy go for when I went ahead and creased them, so that I wouldn't have that rippling effect down the side of the card and it would have a semi-professional finish. This cardstock did not want to bend that easily, so I did have to weight the cards after. After I had printed and redone a lot of my cards on both sides so that I had them ready to go and I had the quantities that I wanted, I realized the prints fell very flat. I don't know if my printer is the best for printing watercolor paper. Altering the hue and saturation and things like that wasn't doing it for me. So what I did was I grabbed my Paul Rubens metallic watercolor, and I started to add on top of the cards. Now, save yourself some time here. Work extremely quickly. I added a blue sky, I added more gray to the ground, and I didn't add anything to the ornaments. But I also went to the inside of the card and added silver to the snow, metallic greens to the evergreens, and browns to the tree trunks. And what you'll see is that it is very subtle, but when you do pick up the card, you do notice a glimmer of light on the reflections in the painting, and you can see that better here where I turn the painting sideways. Quick step here is just to add a gold halo to the backs of my stamp on my card. And I just did this really quickly with a small synthetic brush with my Paul Rubens metallic. I dated the stamp because I want to do these year to year. And so the Roman numeral 1 is just for the addition of the stamp. One thing to note is that these got messy. I would use gloves, wash your hands regularly, and wash your surface regularly when you're doing this, because it gets messy and your clean white paper gets watercolor all over it, and you need to make sure that there's no wet paint or smudged graphite or even just dirt from your hands and oils from your hands that you're transferring onto these prints. So that's pretty much it. After a while of messing around with the dimensions and how my paper was loaded into my printer, I found a happy medium and was able to batch these out pretty quickly. I just have a photo of the back and the front so you can see the metallics in it, but I hope that this helps you guys in an economic way, let people know that you care about them and let people know that you're thinking about them, because that is all people need right now and they are desperate for it. Please take into consideration that a handmade gift and a handmade card is something that really warms up someone's spirit and really helps them get through tough times, because everyone is going through an extremely tough time. And if you are privileged enough to be able to create watercolor holiday cards and send them out to your loved ones, please consider doing so. So let me know down below if you like the video or not. You can follow me if you want. I will be doing more videos like this. I don't know that I'll be doing any more this year, but if I don't get it out there before then, I hope everyone has a happy holiday, and I really hope you're inspired to start painting. Thanks for watching.